I'm Gab, he's Jules. Grey skies over West London, but that's okay. Definitely not over South London, where Crystal Palace have won
Yeah,
the FA Cup. We're gonna leave with that, Jules, but there's a lot going on, including last night. Absolutely incredible. The Serie A title
incredible.
race going back and forth between Inter and Napoli. A lot of controversy, decisions.
Yeah,
Do you know that I've never seen this before? All four coaches in the Inter Lazio and
sent off.
the Parma Napoli game sent
I
off.
know the
Incredible.
tension, the pressure.
Oh my goodness. Um, anyway, we got to start at Wembley though, because you called it, Jules. You called it. You said like I think it was before the quarterfinals. You're like,
Yeah,
Palace are gonna win it. I'm like, yeah, all right, whatever. Like,
but still, I think for them to win the final in the way they did, and we knew exactly what the final would be, right? We knew that Palace were going to defend a lot, not have much of the ball, play very much in transition. That City will have a lot of the ball and try to break them down. And it was down to who was going to do this job the best. But also for them to win in the way they did, they needed a goalkeeper in the form of the best day of his life, really, in the form of his life, which he was. Super efficiency, pretty much one chance, one goal, and that's pretty much what they did. Nobody making any mistakes at all, no silly thing, no just a lap of concentration, just nothing. And they were on it from start to finish, no mistake made, giving nothing away to City. And with 20% of the ball, they managed to win it. And credit to them, because all the credit comes back to them. City have played many, many games against teams that, with a low block, and they've won many, many games like that. Just not this time.
now, I want to be I want to be clear in this, and to me, what makes this more impressive is that this is not how Oliver Glasner. This isn't his credo. Let's just sit back. But they did get the goal early with Ebre Eze. I mean, obviously they would have played on transition. That's how they play. But normally, even when they play in transition, they try to win the ball back further up the pitch and so on. So I'm not going to blame them for going 1-0 up and sitting back, because I think that there's a skill involved in that as well. I think we have to spend a moment though on, and I'm big on like talking about significance, because my thoughts on cup competitions like the FA Cup and the league and whatever else. I think they're about moments, they're about stories. It's one game, anything can happen. For Crystal Palace, this is the first trophy that they've ever won.
Ever, yeah.
If you exclude the Zenith Data System Stroke Full Members Cup, which they won in 1991, which we really should exclude. That was some nonsense that was invented when English clubs were out of European competition because of the ban. And they did win that one year.
Yeah.
And also the top English clubs like Arsenal, Liverpool, United, they didn't play. They chose not to, they opted out of this. That said, this is tremendous. This is what the
Incredible
FA Cup should
achievement.
be about. Because let's face it, City have 3 times the wage bill of Palace, and these are the competitions that these teams, most of the teams in the Premier League, can hope to compete for.
Yeah.
I mean, forget Leicester; that's an outlier. So I think this part was fantastic. I think we got to see tremendous stories. Ebre Eze, you go through his history. He was in the Arsenal's youth setup, released. He was at Reading, released. He went somewhere else, released. He had trials at Bristol City and Sunderland. They didn't want to know. I mean, this is a guy who came back and then he's an England international now.
Yeah.
A tremendous footballer. It shows you that many times the experts, right, get it wrong, especially when it comes to younger players.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if it's the expert. It's just difficult, I think, at a certain age to see what the development will be for that player. And there's so many great, talented players everywhere that sometimes you get it wrong. Everybody's got it wrong.
Well, it's one thing Arsenal at 12. It's another thing when he's 18 years old.
I think at 18 he was already at Palace, wasn't he?
No, he went to QPR.
Oh, yeah,
At
QPR,
18, he had trials
QPR.
at
QPR. He had a
Bristol.
professional contract at 18.
No, but I'm saying it before he went to QPR. He had
Yeah,
trials
yeah.
at Bristol City and
Yeah,
Sunderland.
but it's maybe not what they needed. I just think that, and this is not the kind of game that Eze should play. A player like him his team should not have 20% of the ball. But so you didn't see much apart from outside of his goal. He just defended. But he did that great, and he sacrificed himself for his team, really, like everybody else, which is fantastic. But yeah, and it's a wonderful story. Same for Dean Henderson, same for Mateta, same for Muno, same for everybody.
And I think, and this isn't a slight on City, but the reality is we've gotten to the situation in modern football where this title means the world to Palace. Had City won it, it really wouldn't have meant that much. It would have been their 16th trophy in the last, 8 or 9 years.
Yeah.
Their focus would still have been winning these last 2 games or getting enough points to get into the Champions League.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have changed the perception of the season. All that said, we have to mention it. We'll get into it more on the Gab Juls podcast, but just your view quickly. The Dean Henderson,
I should have been sent off. And that's the other, the other point. To win a game like this, you need to ride your luck. And that's what Palace did.
All right, Jules, you said Palace were lucky with that decision.
Yeah.
I 100% agree with you. That was a denial of goal scoring opportunity. And, when you hear these explanations coming back, you wonder if you're being like gaslit, because the argument. So again, there's a ball over the top. Dean Henderson comes out. I think he doesn't realize. He probably doesn't realize that he's gone outside the box.
He said he thought he was still in his box.
And he just basically punches the ball away from Holland. And so there's a VAR review, and they come back with, well, Holland was moving away from goal. Now, if he was moving away from goal, it was marginally away from goal, but we all know what would have happened. If he doesn't punch it, Holland hits the ball past him.
Yeah.
At which point Henderson either
fouls him,
or Holland runs past him and shoots on
goal.
goal.
Absolutely.
Now, would it have been difficult to score? Whatever. Were the recovering players? Maybe. Would have been a weird angle. Depends how heavy his touch was. But the rule says the rule doesn't say denial of goal. It says denial of goal scoring opportunity. And there's no question Holland would have had a goal scoring opportunity.
Absolutely.
So in that sense, I think City were kind of screwed by this decision.
I just don't understand how somebody can get that one wrong, though. I really don't. It's like, really, how many referees were involved in that decision? So the two VAR, right? There's two in the VAR.
One's an AVAR, but yeah.
But still, it's the two plus the normal referee. I guess the fourth referee has also the mic on, could maybe say something from what he's seen. The two linesmen also have the mic on and can also, if they want, say something from where they were and what they saw. And all of them together can't get this one right. Well, it looks pretty simple, really, I think.
It looks very simple. Now, again, we don't know. We can exonerate one assistant referee because he was presumably on the other side of the pitch far away. We can maybe exonerate the fourth official because maybe there were players in the way. But yeah, the other assistant referee, referee, and the two guys looking at the monitor.
What are you doing? What are you looking at?
Yeah. Now, Pep obviously was very angry about this. And look, I don't want to get the lip readers involved, although they're everywhere in the papers, about what he said to Henderson afterwards. Which obviously he was very angry. He searched out Henderson. He shouted at him and stuff.
What did he say?
Well, I don't.
What can you repeat of what he said?
Okay. Apparently, he said that he said that Henderson was a disgrace to Henderson. This is according to lip readers. I have zero faith in lip readers, going back to when my man Marco Materazzi, all these people put fake words into his mouth and depicted him like a monster, and then finally Zidane said, "Oh no, actually he didn't say anything racist. He said this, something about my sister." So let's leave that to one side, right? So lip readers, I'm gonna go on a little rant here. I hate the fact that these people make a living this way. I hate the fact that these people appear in trials and read lips and people get sent to prison or not sent to prison based on lip reading, because I think a lot of it is frankly mumbo jumbo, right? They're guessing. So I'm not going to blame Pep for what he said, but I can see Pep running aggressively towards Henderson.
Yeah, we saw the argument.
And this is what I don't understand. Because Pep's been a player. I would assume he would have done the exact same thing in that position, especially if he made a mistake. It's entirely plausible that his goalkeeper doesn't realize where he is. Goodness knows, Stefan Ortega doesn't seem to realize where he is half the time, right? If you want to vent your anger at the referee, I can understand that. But why have a go at the goalkeeper like that?
Yeah, I mean, that is frustration, I guess, right? Because it's a similar game to the Southampton one the weekend before where they drew 0-0 and they said like they didn't try to play. I think Southampton had 1% more of the ball than Palace in the final.
That was Ruben Diaz.
And that was Ruben Diaz. Yeah. But Pep said it similar way. They were better. But you can understand it's an FA Cup final.
I can understand it to a point. I can understand it when you're a player on the pitch, when you got the adrenaline. That decision was in the first half. Right? By the end,
plenty of time.
So to carry it with you when you have all the experience, I don't like that. I mean, to me, this speaks of somebody who is really at the end of his tether.
Yeah, and he got a penalty that was never a penalty that his team missed, by the way. So
that was you're 100% certain.
For me, Mitchell touches the ball before even Bernardo goes down before the contact. Anyway, so it was never a penalty.
Yeah, I thought the penalty was pretty sketch. On the penalty thing, since we're talking about people
that's really fascinating.
Confusion, right? Penalty's given, there's a VAR check. Erling Haaland gets the ball. I assume Haaland was going to take it. He's missed some penalties and so on. But you don't confidently stand around holding the ball and yakking and blah, blah, blah. And then it comes time to take a penalty, and he hands it over to Marmoush. We can only speculate. I don't know if they. I mean, you were there. Did they explain afterwards what happened?
So just the fact that it was just Marmoush was the penalty taker for this game. Haaland missed the one in the FA Cup against Bournemouth away, his last one, and they decided that Marmoush was this one. And I think what is fascinating is that Henderson said, "I saw Haaland with the ball, and I thought, okay, if it's him taking it, I just don't know where this is going." But as soon as he saw Marmoush getting the ball from Haaland, which a lot of people do in the Women's FA Cup final, it's the same. You have the ball, so you can take all the trash talking maybe and the tension, a bit of tension, and then you give it to the guy who's been
So we think maybe that was a ploy. Haaland
yeah, absolutely, which everybody does. But then Henderson said, as soon as I saw Marmoush, I knew he was going to hit it that side. And I just had to go early because his strike is so hard that if I don't go early, then I can't save it, even if I choose the right side. And he was right. But it's funny to think that he sees Haaland and think, oh, I'm not sure where I'm going to go now. And that clearly plays in his mind. Whereas he sees Marmoush and says, he's going to be here and I have to go early. And he went early, really early when you look again at the penalty and got it.
Yeah, I think when a penalty isn't scored, we're taught to always put the blame on the attacker, and there's no such thing as a goalkeeping save. But there are some goalkeeping saves which are more goalkeeping saves. This was definitely one of them.
Yeah, it's not a bad penalty. It's a good save, very good save.
He did really well there. In this vein of like Pep's decisions and things like that, were you as surprised as I was when you saw
Claudio Echeverri?
Come
on, please.
I thought he was still at River Plate. I didn't even know he was there until like
he had never been on the bench before. So I've seen him at training because I saw photos of him at training. But you would not, nobody would have known he was there because he'd never been even on the bench once.
Okay, 74 minutes gone or 71 or whatever. He comes on. He and Foden are the first subs to come on.
And Foden wide on the right hand side.
I'm all for thinking outside the box. Pep's a genius. He can do what he likes. However, this is so far outside the box.
This is ridiculous, Gab. I think so. And then afterwards, he's saying like, well, I did well because it was my inspiration and he had kind of an impact on the game. I just cannot believe he put him on for that in that game. And it's nothing against Echeverri, who's young, who has a great future ahead of him, whether it's at City or somewhere else. We don't really know what his ceiling is because we've only seen him really play at under 17 level at the World Cup especially, and then a little bit in Argentina. Yeah, but with players his age. Yeah. Not in an FA Cup final like this. I'm not sure he was, it's definitely not the right thing to do from Pep, but not a disservice to him or to Echeverri or service. I don't know.
If you're so full, what do you think? I mean, I don't...
and what about if you're Jack Grealish? I mean, if you're Jack Grealish, who I bumped into the train the other day, by the way, we watched the Classico together. Great story that. He was lovely with his family. You just have to get out because this is they clearly don't want you there.
By the way, I have to do this because I know people are listening all over the world, especially those in the US. The idea that Jack Grealish, who was paid £100 million, who probably makes, I'm going to guess, 8 figures a year comfortably, should take the train.
In my carriage as well.
Well, you would no doubt going first class.
First class, but still.
It blows your mind. But the reality is, trains over here, when they work, are it's a much better way to get around. Country's not big enough for Jack Grealish to take a private plane. Plus, maybe he's environmently minded as well.
And he had
so between getting stuck in traffic and taking the train, he takes the train.
Exactly.
Well done, Jack. This was really bizarre, and I think internally, I think there's going to be people who hold him to account. I would hope that he's holding himself to account. I hope Juan Leo holds him to account. This idea that Echeverri did so well, I saw him fall over. I saw him try to take shots when the defender's right there and the ball just bounces off the defender.
He wanted the ball a lot. I guess that's why, and he played between the lines, and maybe that kind of profile as a Palace defense, tired defense, see him arriving, although half of that Palace defense would have no idea who the guy was anyway. Exactly. So it's not like if you get scared, oh no, he's coming on, what are we going to do now? And if you're if you're Richards or, one of the Gehi, you just like, oh no, what are we going to do now? Make sure. No, because nobody thought he would play.
I watched I was watching the BBC's coverage of this, and I don't know who it was, but when he came on, they immediately referenced Lionel Messi. And I'm like, Can we just
Yes,
please
yes. I think I heard. Yeah.
Can we please stop doing this? Can we just not stop referencing? The only person where it's acceptable to reference Lionel Messi as a comparison is Lamine Yamal because he's at the same club and it's a similar career trajectory.
And same foot. The other, because I think they even said like the right-footed Messi. Wait, if he's already right-footed, like let's not go there anyway.
But yeah, the obvious question is this going to have? Could this have some sort of blowback with the game on Tuesday?
Not sure. Well, the Tuesday, yeah, I think they will have to pick themselves up. It's not
so
easy.
Tuesday they're going to make up the game, and it's important for them. With the Champions.
Because right now they're outside of the top 5, they're 6, but with a game in hand. Watching that game, I thought more about what you said a few times on the show, and even very recently about Pep's future. The Club World Cup, for example, and we know he extended his contract, so he should be there next season. And we're not saying that he's not going to be there, but that is clearly maybe something not right now.
And maybe I would not be surprised if he takes time off and does not go to the Club World Cup.
Yeah.
I think he's expressed his disdain for the competition enough times. And he just looks like somebody who needs a break, who needs a reset. Let's go back to City to Palace. We talked about it at the beginning because I think they need a lot of praise.
Yeah.
As you know, we've both had our issues with Mr. Steve Parish, but I have to say, well done to him. Oliver Glasner started the season with winless in 8 games.
Yeah. 1 win in 11.
And they stuck with him. Now, there's an argument. I know they have some data nerds in the background. They said, don't worry, the guy stinks. But look, Leicester, Southampton, we'll be fine. Then we sell Eze in the summer, balance the books, blah, 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 right? That's a very cynical view. But he's taking this team forward. The way that front three of, Mateta, the masked man who broke his face and is a gold medalist, right?
Yeah. Silver, but yeah.
Silver medalist. Ismaila Sarr, who... sometimes looks like the best out of the 3. Adam Wharton, who you absolutely adore.
Yeah, absolutely.
That defense, which let's not forget, Chalobah leaving in the middle of the season.
Yeah, in January.
He was a nailed-on starter.
Yeah,
he had the understanding with Gay. He moves on.
Yeah.
He's had to make adjustments on the fine. Munoz, I think, all right, maybe there are better attacking fullbacks, wingbacks in the league.
Not many, and go and find him in Belgium as well.
But there aren't many. Yeah, he was at Genk.
He's very impressive.
This has been really impressive. Now they're 12th on the table. The other thing I also want to mention is in their run to the FA Cup final. Okay, so they played some lower league muppets at the start, but that's fine. Everybody does. But they beat 2 teams that are ahead of them in the Premier League. They beat Fulham and they beat Villa.
Yeah.
Again, to me, that's impressive.
Yeah.
And I don't know. After this season, towards the end of the season, which let's face it, relegation's decided, titles decided a long time ago. Yeah, the Champions League race is the only thing kind of keeping us alive. To finish with this kind of final and to have this upset and to not have a situation where a team can screw everything up this year and still walk away with the FA Cup. I mean, it made me happy. I'll come on and say it. It's not that I'm biased against City, but I think it's a tremendous story, and I'm really happy for Palace that they won.
Yeah, maybe the best fans in the country too, or one of the best atmospheres certainly at Selhurst Park. I think but the start of the season, just to go back on that point, was always going to be slow because you lose Michael Olise, which if you're Crystal Palace, you cannot replace Olise. You can buy a young player or a player like Ismaila Sarr that you will hope will have some impact on it, but it was never going to be like Olise.
Very different player from...
Also, but even if you try to match with the stats and the data somebody in the profile of Olise, you can't buy somebody who's worth 60 million now and ready to play for Bayern Munich and for France starting. This is not what Palace do. City can replace like for like because they have the money, they've got the power, they are one of those clubs. Palace are not. So that was the first thing. Mateta, obviously, coming back from very late from the Olympics, not having gone through a preseason fitness-wise, was obviously behind everybody. Same for Anese, who went to the Euros with England, went really far. That shortened his preseason too. So there was a lot of factors that could explain that slow start. But you're right, there was always going to go one way, better. And even I think if they don't go that far in the FA Cup, they finish top 10 for sure, maybe even top 8, like ahead of Brentford or Brighton, who are now in 8th position or fighting for that 8th place. It's only they slowed down lately because I think they were all focus, and rightly so, on the FA Cup and winning it. Now look at that. It's an incredible achievement for that club.
Final point on City. I want to go back to this. All right. Jeremy Doku. Maybe it's my weakness that I really like the guy, and I think he's really, really good. Late in the game, I felt like I was watching Barcelona against Inter, where it seemed that the only spark was going to come from giving the ball to him and him trying to take on 50 players like Yamal does. And loses the ball.
Yeah, and that doesn't work.
Has Doku kind of gotten the short end of the stick
I
here?
don't know.
Put it this way. Should City's rebirth, should he be a key part of City's rebuild this summer?
Yeah. I think you need a player like that in your team. You need a winger that has all those attributes. But this final also showed City's limitation. And on another day, they win this game because they've had enough chances. We said about the penalty, the red card, all of that. So on another day, they win. But it also shows the limitations this season. You can't just, like you said, Gab, your game plan cannot just be pass the ball to Doku and then let's see what happens. Because also he's Doku and he's not Lamine Yamal, or he's not like a winger that always gets it right. His decision making is still shaky at times, to be kind here. And there are sparks and there are good things, and he forced Henderson to a couple of good saves. But overall, there's a lot of things that he could do still better. But that just cannot be your game plan. And I think this game also showed what City have been average this season.
Final shout out to Kevin De Bruyne. This not his last Wembley appearance, because he's going to appear at Wembley 2027-28 Champions League final with Napoli.
Of course.
Where he's going to come off the bench and score a free kick in injury time. But
for now, it was the last.
For now, it is the last appearance. What a player.